I've had this image in my head for a while now of a mountain, its top surrounded by a thin blanket of fog, with just the point peeking out. What if I could build a piece of furniture that looks like this? Perhaps it'll be a bench. So I got to sketching. I could find a mountain-shaped rock for the base, a piece of wood intersecting the rock to form the bench top. I started to wonder, could I make it strong enough that it would support a human's weight standing at the very end of the cantilever? With this impossible-sounding design in mind, I pondered how I could actually build it. I'd need a large boulder, and more importantly, a way to cut it and machine it. I don't have either of those, but that's when my friend Ben Ueda messaged me, inviting me to stay with him in Joshua Tree and build something. Ben's done plenty of rock projects. He said he'd teach me how to cut stone, and we could choose from the plethora of rocks he had dropped on his property. Ben is a designer, architect, and YouTuber known for making high-quality design accessible. He created his YouTube channel, Homemade Modern, where he shows how to build practical furniture and home goods with the focus of democratizing DIY design. Since then, Ben has tackled larger projects, with his most recent project building Reset Hotel, a shipping container hotel in the desert. I was excited. 10 days in the desert to get away from the hustle and bustle of normal life sounded like just what I needed. I met Ben when I was 15 at the Bay Area Maker Faire. I'm 21 now. Since then, we've chatted online, but I haven't seen him in person. While my main goal was to see this furniture concept to life, I had an ulterior motive. I wanted to pick Ben's brain on a few things: how he built a self-employed career, his experience of working in a creative field such as design and YouTube, and what his advice would be for navigating an education in design. Reset Hotel butts up against the border of Joshua Tree National Park. After exploring the land surrounding the hotel, it was time to choose a boulder for this project.
It's crazy, like, I've seen this before, but normally it's like thinner. And this is almost like slip cast pottery.
We found a good rock that had a mountain-like resemblance and got to cutting the bottom off of it to create a flat surface. Having the bottom be as flat as possible was important to create stability for the entire piece.
Rocks and things, there were sand and hills and rings. The first thing I met was a fly with a buzz and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can remember your name, 'cause there ain't no one for to give you no pain. La 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 la. After 2 days in the desert sun, my skin began to turn red. And after 3 days in the desert fun, I was looking at a riverbed, and the story it told of a river that flowed.
After about an hour of cutting and chiseling away, we had a nearly perfect bottom. The rest of the work on this piece would happen back at Ben's house, so we needed to load the rock into the back of his truck to transport it. We pulled the rock up this plywood ramp using a ratchet strap and a hand winch secured to the truck. With the rock secured, we drove about 40 minutes back to Ben's house, and as the sun set, we unloaded the boulder. I think our estimation was that this thing weighed about 400 pounds. Before I could move the rock into its upright position and begin the bulk of this build, I had to use an angle grinder to grind down the remaining rock that wasn't removed by the brake saw. Now, in order for this design to support my weight, I needed a secure method of attaching the wood to the stone where they intersect. And much like ancient joinery, the simplest and strongest solution would be to create a groove in the rock that the wood can slot into. The problem is that the groove needs to be precise and evenly cut at the same height all the way around the stone, which would not be possible holding the saw completely by hand. I needed a jig that could guide the saw and allow me to make an even cut, so I constructed this small table out of 2x4s. While this project is visually fairly simple, there'd be lots of steps in the process and material transformation, all within a limited time frame. So I needed to be faster and looser than I'm used to when building things. Many people I know, myself included, struggle with perfectionism. Sometimes it's a barrier to success, while other times being detail-oriented is a gift. It all depends on the context. I've found the experience of building something within a short time frame allows you to divorce yourself from the quality of the final result. In the future, I want to have more of a mix of projects. Some with the end goal of fine quality, others with the intentions of learning and experiencing a new medium. I think both are important. That's what this project was for me. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still just going to be wood and stone, but it's up to me how refined it'll look. With one cut made, I'd completely disassembled my table. I cut the legs shorter and I reassembled it for the next pass with the saw. I just finished cutting the second pass out of this rock here. It's kind of crazy that you're able to remove this much material in such a short amount of time. I think I probably spent under an hour making this entire cut. Now, before we can move on to the wood part of this project and make the actual bench top, we need to clean off the stone, because in the cutting process, this stone has gotten covered and caked with a lot of dust. Right now, everything is kind of just a light gray color. So once we wash this thing, it's gonna look a lot better visually. Before washing it, I did one more pass with the saw to make the gap thicker, which will make the connection between the top and the base even stronger. This is so much cleaner now that I've power washed it for a little bit. You can really see the speckled pattern of the stone. I believe this is granite. I'll have to double check. I'm really glad that I ended up doing another pass with the saw and making this dado taller, because it's gonna provide a lot more strength to have more of the wood sandwiched into the stone. The rock part of this project is done. And counting all the time that Ben and I spent, it's probably under 3 hours, which is quite impressive because this is a very large part of this project. And now that we're done with the base of this bench, it's time to move on to the top. And for the top, I'm gonna be using these massive Douglas fir beams that Ben has in his driveway. Probably 20 feet long, at least.
Again, you're more than my speed, and I've played heartstrings before, but not in your key. You tell me you're waiting for someone, but you haven't heard more. You broke a
So I've spent quite a while fitting the boards, making marks with a pencil, and then carving a little bit more away. So hopefully they should now fit perfectly into the rock. Nice. That's pretty good. Between the dust of the desert and the stone and sawdust from this project, this is the dirtiest I've ever been at the end of the day. I come home most days completely covered in sawdust, and that usually means that I'm leaving a trail of dust and debris behind me throughout the house. And cleaning the floors of my apartment always seems to get pushed to the back burner. This is the Narwal Freo Z10 Ultra, a revolutionary floor mopping robot. Not only does this device vacuum the floor, but it mops it as well, completely autonomously. One of my favorite features that sets Narwal apart is how well it's able to map its environment and avoid obstacles. It uses dual RGB cameras and dual AI chips to recognize and avoid over 200 objects. It can avoid cables, shoes, and any objects I happen to have left out. All of the computing is done locally on the vacuum itself to help protect your privacy. The robot has these little mop arms that extend and swing out to reach right into the corners along the baseboard. So all those nooks and crannies that accumulate dust, you don't have to worry about them. When it's done cleaning, it heads back to the base station, which takes care of everything. It washes and dries the mop pads with hot water and air, empties the dustbin, and it refills the clean water automatically. You can actually go up to 120 days completely hands-free without having to replace the dust bag, which is pretty wild. I genuinely love this device. It saves me so much time and headspace that I don't have to spend cleaning. If you want to check out the Freo Z10 Ultra for yourself, I've added a link in the description. Thank you, Narwal, for supporting what I do. So now that I know that these two boards fit, it's time to start shaping them so that they look a little bit more like the sketch.
Tell me I'm great again and I love you more. Ride high, fake confidence, right down to my core. Strike a nerve like an airstrike, right all under my skin. I wear a mask to cover myself in the shape of a grin.
My dad taught me this kerf cutting technique when I was 12, where you make repeated passes with the circular saw and hammer out the chunks. It's probably the fastest way to remove large amounts of material at a time, and it's certainly the most satisfying. At this point in the project, the days seem to blend together, the silence and emptiness of the desert taking the place of my normal routines. After smoothing the chipped out area with the angle grinder, the time had arrived to see how well they fit into the stone.
Yo, new year, new money, but it's the same old me. Need the yard that don't come cheap before I get 8 gold teeth. They wanna play with sticks and stones, I'm calling them Jamie T. Up chasing coins like Sonic, could trust me, they don't sleep. Play my songs out of whip, she said keep that shit on repeat. Gotta calculate steps, I gotta take a step back and breathe. Life got busy, I turned 18, moved out, all that I had was a dream. Wanna see all of my people free, but I ain't Martin Luther. Pull up, I'm trying to get paid, 10 toes down, I want set pace. Hop in the booth, the beat get laced, I make it look easy, mate. Can't break down and cry, I put in blood, sweat and years. It's only when you face your fears, you watch them all disappear. So, bill it, let man cook, no skillet. Bill it, lick it, rolled it up and I lit.
This build was progressing quickly to both Ben and I's satisfaction. The next night, I stayed at Reset Hotel so I could get a glimpse of what Ben has been building the last few years. The hotel consists of 65 units, all built out of shipping containers. Ben and his team have spent the last few years designing and building this, and many of the furniture and interior builds are documented on his YouTube channel. I've added a link to both Ben's social media and Reset Hotel if you're curious. At the hotel, I had some time to stop working and reflect. 9 years ago, I started this YouTube channel with the eventual goal of making videos for a living. In 6 months, I'll be finished with college, and my full-time job will be exactly that. I don't say this out of ego or pride, but simply put, because I wouldn't have been able to do it without people like Ben who have encouraged me, mentored me, and showed me the path over the years. If you're going into any creative field, I think it's absolutely necessary to form connections with people who are doing what you want to be doing, both as peers and as mentors. Ben and his sister Jessie wanted to show me the national park and do some exploring. And this was the perfect opportunity to pick his brain and share his perspective with you.
So I don't know if you remember, but in 2018, I met you at Maker Faire, and I came up with a little camera rig and I asked you 3 questions.
I'm gonna ask 3 questions to as many makers as possible.
Be prolific rather than be excellent. There's no right way to make things. There's only the way that's taking the most advantage of what you already have.
I'm going to college for design right now, and even though college provides a structure for learning design, I think a lot of people are still a little bit lost in finding their direction.
I've been on both sides of academia, as a student, undergrad and grad, and then as a visiting lecturer in teaching design. One, I love it, right? And I've done videos about whether or not architecture or design school is worth it. The things that are worth it are not necessarily the classes or the information. We can get the information anyways. You can watch YouTube videos, you can do research, you can ask AI now. What's valuable is the connective tissue that you have with your peer group of other people that are interested in the same thing. Oh, I'm going to make friends, I'm going to have resources, we're all going to go off to different careers, we might collab in the future, but also just the emotional support of having people that are trying to live a creative life that are the same age and at the time we're in the same place as you. There's a helpful side that's a little more cynical, and this is more individualistic. It's nice to have a baseline. Often when you're doing creative work by yourself, you don't know if you're doing good. You don't know if this is good or not. And so it's nice to have people that you can show it to. What's really valuable is that you kind of get a sense of where you're at. So it's nice as you go through your career to know what your baseline should be. Not that you're kind of like trying to compete against them or beat them, but it is helpful to have that. Now, the part that I think is really misleading, in school, you are literally given commissions. You're given assignments, design this, design that. That's the worst part of college, or the least effective part. When you graduate, no one gives you a design job. No one gives you a design problem. The hardest part of a design career is the opposite of college. You're not just walking into class, getting an assignment, and now you get to design something cool. You actually have to find the financial opportunity where you can make a living solving something or designing something.
And it's kind of a Venn diagram of what's your interest and what's going to make money.
Right.
This is something that I've tried to do is if I get an assignment with a brief, sometimes I'll try to sway that a little bit to fit what I want to be doing in the future.
It's not trying to tailor school or college to be perfect. It's not going to be. But you just want to understand so you're not surprised when you get out of it what the actual next task is doing. Now you've situated yourself with YouTube and content where you can actually self-direct the problem. But in order to make a living out of that, which you're able to do now, you had to put in a lot of free time to build up, right? So in some ways, your job as a content creator is easier now than it was a few years ago, because especially you put hours in now, you know what kind of money you're gonna get out of it. When you were starting, you knew you were gonna put hours in, you had no idea of money out. You had to invest years and hours of making things and then making the videos just to get to the point where now you can regularly commission yourself to design things.
Which I feel like is very similar to school because you're putting in hours and hours of just learning the basics.
Right.
And it may not seem fun. Your advice to a design student in college would be to focus on honing those essential skills or to focus on the creative side more?
I'm careful on advice, but what I would say is look equally not at the task you're given, but look at the things that are not mentioned. And you don't have to bring those into school. They're not there for a reason. It's design school, not business school. You don't get caught being surprised and being unready. You won't be perfectly ready, but understand the context you're in and how when you get out of it, it's radically different. Just that awareness will set you up to start looking for the opportunities that are actually good for you. For you, it's been content. It might eventually be something else. Let's say you get hired, if you're a product design student, by a shoe company. They're not going to give you this cool assignment that you have autonomy over. You're just working on these renderings and you're photoshopping things into them. Now, you're going to spend the next 600 hours of your life doing that, maybe more. And if you're good at it, we might just have you do more of that. If you show responsibility, then they might give you broader tasks, and eventually it might, over years, you might get a project completely assigned to you with sort of help underneath, but that's not going to happen right away.
So what I'm hearing is if you want to be a generalist, you have to have the work ethic and the responsibility and the decision-making skills.
Right. If you're a generalist, you're going to get hired as a consultant or as part of an agency like an IDO or as an individual. And then you kind of look at like, okay, if you hire me for this many hours, I can do these sort of, milestones along the way. But yeah, getting the commissions is the hard part post-college.
Your answer to my question when we were at Maker Faire was be prolific, not excellent. Do you still stand by that?
I think it's focus on being prolific. It's hard to focus on being excellent, but you become excellent through trial and error. When you hear people talk about, the last 10 or 15 or 20 or even 30 years of their career, they learned through the doing. And so early on, especially if you're young, you want to increase your experience so that you can, one, discover more things that you're curious and interested in, try on more sizes, try on more fits, and then two, get through errors as quickly as possible. The other problem with chasing excellence is whose definition? Some people might focus more on being unique. If you focus too much on excellence, I think you're going to become more of a craftsperson than necessarily a designer. That's okay. I love craftspeople. Like if I go to a steakhouse, I want a craftsperson.
Yeah, there's a time and a place for each.
Sometimes those things come together. But if something is truly unique, then there's no prerequisite for it that defines excellence. All right, let's go climb.
Let's go climb. Thanks, Ben.
Having heard Ben's take on school, career, and design, and having climbed plenty of large rocks, we once again hoisted the rock back into the truck and took the table to the hotel, where it'll be listed for sale.
So we'll drop off the rock. Okay.
We ended the night by assembling the table and grilling with friends. This trip was wonderfully spontaneous, and it really reminded me just how important community is, and building connections with people who share similar passions as you. Thank you, Ben and Jesse, for having me, and for giving me the space and tools to see my design to life. And thank you, Narwal, for sponsoring this video and supporting what I do.